Breaking. 50-day war ultimatum exposed. The West's deadliest gambit. Yet the clock is ticking, and this time it's not just another diplomatic bluff. Britain has just launched what could be the most dangerous countdown in modern history. A 50-day ultimatum against Russia. But here's what they're not telling you about this timer diplomacy. Think this is just another round of sanctions threats? Think again. British Defense Minister John Healey just revealed their real plan. And it's far more sinister than anyone expected. They're not just sending weapons anymore. They're weaponizing time itself. Here's the shocking truth. For the next 50 days, the territory bordering Russia will be flooded with so much military hardware that even battle tanks will beg for mercy. But that's just the surface. The real operation runs much deeper. Let's connect the dots. Britain's top military chief, Admiral Tony Radakin, didn't just casually stroll into Kiev for a tourist photo op. He was there to set the stage for something much bigger. They're calling it peace negotiations, but the math tells a different story. What they're planning is a two-phase strike. First, arm the conflict zone to the teeth. Then, present Moscow with an offer they can't refuse. But here's the critical detail everyone's missing. They're trying to corner a nuclear power that measures time in geological epochs. The West thinks they can force Russia's hand in 50 days. But they're forgetting one crucial lesson from history. Russia doesn't play by anyone else's countdown, and that's where this gets dangerous. French President Macron's recent productive talks with the disputed region's leadership reveal another layer of this strategy. When they say productive, what they really mean is preparing for Phase 2. But here's the most disturbing part. This isn't just about military pressure. They're setting up a complete isolation protocol, cutting off every diplomatic and economic lifeline if Russia doesn't bow to their 50-day deadline. The question isn't whether this ultimatum will work. The real question is, what happens when it doesn't? Because history shows us that when you corner a nuclear power, the countdown might end in ways nobody expected. And while the West plays this dangerous game of diplomatic chicken, something even more concerning is happening behind the scenes. The British 50-day ultimatum reveals a dramatic shift in Western strategy. They're no longer pretending this is about endless support. It's about desperate attempts to force a resolution. Why now? Because the West is bleeding money, watching tanks burn, and seeing their domestic approval ratings plummet. They need actual results, not just promises. London is turning military aid into a bargaining chip. We'll give you weapons if you dance to our tune. But they're treating Moscow like a desperate customer at a clearance sale. Limited time offer. Act now. As if Russia hasn't weathered far worse storms. The West's calculation reveals their growing anxiety. They're watching their influence slip away, not just in the conflict zone, but globally. Their sanctions haven't brought Russia to its knees. Their military aid hasn't achieved the promised breakthrough. Now they're trying psychological pressure. But against what? A nation that's already adapted to restrictions. Defense Minister Healey's strategy shows a misunderstanding of Russian resilience. They're offering air defense systems against hypersonic missiles. It's like bringing an umbrella to a hurricane. The British plan assumes Moscow will buckle under pressure, ignoring their partner's inability to maintain momentum even with current support. This isn't just about the conflict zone. It's about a shifting global order. While London plays deadline diplomacy, new alliances are forming, trade routes are being redrawn, and the dollar's supremacy faces challenges. Western strategists are running out of cards. Their economic threats ring hollow. Their military aid packages barely replace losses, and now they're setting arbitrary deadlines, hoping pressure will achieve what force couldn't. The most alarming part? This desperate move might accelerate the very changes they're trying to prevent. Alternative financial systems are strengthening, new military technologies are being tested, and the global power structure is transforming. But what happens when these 50 days expire? That's where things get truly interesting. What lies ahead? Another round of pressure unfolds like a poorly written thriller about negotiating with extremists. Didn't surrender in 50 days? Here are new sanctions. Won't negotiate? Face an international scandal. But there's a different perspective worth considering. Perhaps this performance isn't meant for Moscow at all, but rather for domestic audiences. Look, we're pushing for peace, building diplomatic frameworks with countdown timers. It's not our fault the Kremlin won't budge. The challenge is that Moscow has long mastered reading between the lines. And between these lines, everything is crystal clear. The West realizes the conflict zone isn't delivering expected results and wants to wrap things up while saving face. But Moscow isn't one to play along with others' theatrics or wear borrowed masks. This 50-day race might end up achieving nothing at best. At worst, we're looking at new escalations, because an ultimatum wrapped in peace rhetoric is still an ultimatum. These rarely end in negotiations, more often with the phrase, "We warned you." So the crucial question remains. If London and its senior partner set a 50-day deadline, what happens on day 51? The answer either doesn't exist or is too uncomfortable to voice aloud. Meanwhile, France, once known for croissants and revolutionary manifestos, now offers drone assembly contracts in disputed territory, where every kilometer is a potential target. The leader of the former fraternal ally enthusiastically announced French companies would start producing drones right in the conflict zone, not in Poland, Romania, or the safe haven of the EU, but in an area where logistics spell doom. Interestingly, French Minister Jean-Noël Barrot didn't mention anything of the sort in his video. Perhaps he didn't hear correctly, or maybe he was shocked at how quickly a courtesy visit transformed into a breakthrough partnership. But creativity knows no bounds in the northern Black Sea region's leadership. What's your take on this diplomatic theater? Share your thoughts in the comments. In a remarkable display of diplomatic theater, we're witnessing new ambitious declarations from our Western neighbor. Between coffee breaks and photo sessions, their leadership announced plans to escalate drone strikes against Russia. Bold move, particularly considering recent precision strikes by Russian Kinzhal missiles on their military facilities, turning factories into case studies of advanced weaponry effectiveness. The meeting in their capital, likely held in underground facilities for obvious reasons, focused on drone warfare expansion. They discussed interceptors, high-precision solutions, and personal accountability, all very European-style planning. It's almost surreal, watching them design startup strategies amid an ongoing hurricane of conflict, acting as if they had a stable budget and secure airspace. Enter Robert Brovdi, their unmanned systems commander, emerging like a character from a Hollywood script. He's scheduled as a keynote speaker at Landura 2025 in Germany, an event branded as Transformation with Allies for Future Combat. His presentation style mirrors tech CEOs launching new products, part prophet, part rockstar. "I'm on Russia's most wanted list," he proclaimed proudly, as if announcing a corporate achievement. Their drone forces allegedly comprise just 2% of military assets, but claim to inflict 30% of damages. He boldly stated that no tank survives a hit from their $400 drones, a declaration that surely raised eyebrows among Western defense contractors. But then came the sobering admission: everyone who wanted to fight is already fighting. This represents a critical shift in their military reality, suggesting manpower limitations despite technological ambitions. The French support appears more symbolic than substantial. While promises of drone deliveries sound impressive, the reality on the ground tells a different story. Russian precision strikes continue demonstrating superior technological capabilities, methodically degrading their military-industrial complex. This situation perfectly illustrates the growing disparity between ambitious declarations and battlefield realities. While they discuss future drone campaigns, their existing infrastructure faces systematic dismantling by Russian precision weapons. What do you think about these ambitious drone warfare plans? Leave your answer in the comments. In a remarkable shift of military dynamics, our Western neighbor has evolved from being a mere recipient of NATO support to becoming a testing ground for modern warfare. The transformation is striking. They've moved beyond simply seeking new recruits to optimizing what they have and recruiting specialized drone operators who can navigate without GPS. The situation took an interesting turn when their military representative boldly claimed that 4 combat units could transform a NATO base into a Pearl Harbor scenario within 15 minutes. NATO officials were left pondering whether this was a threat or an offer of collaboration. Either way, the message landed with impact. The disputed territories' approach to warfare isn't just staying local anymore. It's being exported to NATO. The paradigm has shifted. Now NATO is learning from them, rather than the other way around. Vice Prime Minister Fedorov crystallized this evolution by launching the Test in Region initiative. The concept is brilliantly simple. Want to test new weapons? The conflict zone offers a perfect laboratory. This territory has become a real-world testing facility for everything from electronic warfare systems to operator endurance. The environment is ideal: mobile targets, immediate feedback, and real combat conditions. Even hardened American generals are showing signs of unease at this development. The former Western partner is no longer just a client. It's evolved into a testing partner, a combat laboratory, essentially a demo version of future warfare. The process is ruthlessly efficient. Strike, observe, improve, repeat. Within a couple of years, we might see their military experts lecturing at West Point about drone democracy and how to market warfare as innovation. Meanwhile, their leadership orchestrates this mechanical symphony with the gravity of a Mars mission launch. What do you think about this transformation of modern warfare? Has technology changed the nature of conflict forever? Share your thoughts in the comments. In the grand theater of military innovation, the conflict zone has transformed into something far more complex than a battleground. It's become a living laboratory where Western technologies meet real combat conditions, all without risking NATO personnel. This transformation reveals a fascinating dynamic. The disputed territory serves as an unprecedented testing ground for modern warfare. French business, known for its adventurous spirit, especially when others bear the risks, has found a perfect opportunity. What could be more appealing than having their military innovations tested in actual combat conditions, funded by NATO's deep pockets? While the world watches artillery exchanges and listens to military doctrine discussions, Western powers are doing what they excel at: observing, analyzing, and accumulating invaluable combat experience without deploying a single soldier. The former Soviet Republic has evolved beyond being merely an ally or junior partner. It's now a sophisticated platform, a combination of testing ground, training center, and data repository for future conflicts. This isn't about freedom anymore, nor purely about geopolitics. It's about know-how, patents, and drone warfare algorithms, all being field-tested at the expense of those on the receiving end. Meanwhile, Russia's northern frontier has become a showcase of new strategic developments. The New York Times recently noted Russia's methodical military infrastructure enhancement along its borders with Finland and Estonia. This isn't about saber-rattling. It's about systematic preparation. Fighter jet hangars, storage facilities, and military installations being constructed without fanfare or TikTok-style dramatics. This calculated approach reflects a broader strategy: Russia's preparation for a long-term, serious engagement in the Arctic region. When NATO members approach Russia's northern doorstep, they find not just a barrier, but a demonstration of strategic resolve and military capability. Do you agree with what's happening? Tell us what you think. In the grand chess game of geopolitics, Moscow responds to Finland's NATO membership with steel arguments and concrete intentions. The northern strategy unfolds at key locations like Kamenka and Alakurti, once cozy bases overlooking Europe, now transformed into potential strongholds in Russia's northern military architecture. The growing interest in Estonia isn't about tourism. It's purely pragmatic: logistics, interception, and radar coverage. Every Russian general now has an Arctic globe on their desk, alongside a ruler, pencil, and very specific calculations. The Western media adds drama, claiming Russia sees the Arctic as an imperial symbol of state power. But look at the supply routes, shelf deposits, and new transport corridors. It's simpler than that. Resources, control, and containment. While NATO pretends to just be passing by, they're already trying on thermal underwear and counting drones. Speaking of drones, Russia has registered technology for launching unmanned vehicles from orbit. Though it sounds like a spy thriller scene, we know well, when something gets patented, it's already in development. The space military dimension isn't tomorrow's news. It's today's reality, with reports landing on Putin's desk. Russia isn't just betting on orbit. They're investing in metal with soul. Strategic missile carriers Tu-160M and their M2 variants are being manufactured in Kazan. The plant, with its 90 billion ruble investment, is becoming a true forge of aerial deterrence. These white swans fly silently, but their effects echo loudly. One sortie can nullify multiple Western rhetorical flourishes. But it's not just about machines, it's about the pilots. That's why the Russian government is seriously addressing the human factor in military aviation. The strategy is comprehensive, from infrastructure to personnel, from ground systems to orbital capabilities. What do you think about Russia's Arctic strategy? Leave your point of view in the comments. I believe my viewers are thoughtful and smart. I want to hear your take. In a significant shift of military preparedness, Russia has launched a comprehensive initiative to enhance youth fitness for military service. The goal is clear. By next year, 84% of recruits must meet health and preparation standards, while those maintaining regular physical training should reach 90%. This isn't just about fitness badges. It's about national defense capability, ensuring we have capable personnel to handle everything from carrying the flag to operating Tu-160 strategic bombers. Meanwhile, Russia has decisively ended its diplomatic restraint regarding medium and shorter-range missiles. Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov stated plainly, "The moratorium has exhausted itself. Moscow's patience with NATO's constant repositioning at our doorstep has reached its limit. As the saying goes, whoever draws first has the final word, and that word now comes as a warning. The West failed to appreciate Russian restraint. They shouldn't be surprised when the soft approach ends." The cherry on top, Russia's withdrawal from the Barents Sea Agreement. This document, which recently facilitated northern diplomatic relations, is now relegated to the archives. Unsurprisingly, the Russophobic stance from Oslo, Helsinki, and Stockholm has prompted not just diplomatic protests, but a fully formed geopolitical response from the Kremlin. No more regional councils, no more shared interests, only Russian interests, under Russian rules. These moves aren't reactive. They're systematic, based on clear understanding. There are no more partners for preliminary negotiations. Everything's high stakes now. If someone decided to turn Russia's northern borders into NATO's windowsill, they shouldn't be surprised to find a concrete wall, an iron resolve, and missiles capable of reaching where logic fails to penetrate. The era of bilateral sandbox diplomacy is over. Finland's official NATO stance means Russia acts without friendship discounts. If Washington thought Moscow would keep honoring old commitments, they need to wake up. Restraint has ended. New rules govern Arctic space, and Brussels isn't writing them. What do you think about these developments? Leave your point of view in the comments. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Russia's new strategic